Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Weekly Awakening podcast. It is your host, Cosmic Colleen. I hope everyone had a fabulous weekend. Saturn really slowed down this podcast, slowed me down, slowed everyone down this week, and had us reevaluating and looking at what is important in life. I'm going to talk about that Sun-Saturn opposition that we started to experience this weekend well into the week. We are also going to be talking about Jupiter retrograde at Aries. When Jupiter moved retrograde, I was in Italy, so I really haven't done an official episode, but I've definitely talked about Jupiter in Aries since it transited in there in April, so you want to go back and get an idea about what's happening, but we're going to talk a little bit more about that. I'm also going to be talking about Venus in Leo trining Jupiter. Again, my head's still a little bit all over the place, and we're going to talk about Mars moving into Gemini. Mars will be retrograding in Gemini, and it also stays in Gemini well into January. So this is a pretty big transit. And if you remember, the last Mars retrograde was October. Like, the big shit went down for me in October of 2020. So that was a big pivotal point. It was, I believe, squaring Saturn. It was kind of crazy then, but I think it started the middle or the end of August of 2020 and then went into December of 2020. So we're going to talk about that and what you can maybe expect and how it might be similar to the retrograde 2 years ago. So let's talk about this Sun opposite Saturn. First of all, Monday morning, I had a busy afternoon, but I had all intentions of running an errand, coming back, and dropping this episode. Well, I drop my kids off, and then at camp, and I hit the curb. I drive a big Honda Pilot, and sometimes I just have a bad depth perception with it, and I run over things all the time. Get this. I got a little bit further, and then my car died, and the tire was in the sidewall. It was ruined. Back in April, we had the Sun squaring Saturn, and I don't know if you remember this because it's on my social media, and I'm sure I talked about it on the podcast. I blew a tire and hit the sidewall, and the tire was ruined. And it was the same front left tire, new tire, but same position of the tire, but different gym. It was a different gym, and I hit the curb. And it made my whole day just stop and shut down. And this time I wanted to tear up. I'm like, how did I just do this again? A few weeks later, a few months later, how did I hit this curb? And I couldn't cancel my whole day. And so I just sat there, and guess what? Everything got fixed up. I took a deep breath. I didn't cry. I got it together. I pulled into the fire station, and I said to the guy, hey, can you come change my tire? I don't really know how. And he said, yeah, but I have to leave. I got to jump ship if I get a call. And of course, in the middle of it, he got a call. And let me tell you something, because, it was opposite Saturn, brings death. With my jack, I guess, which I learned from the second guy that came and saved me from the road. With my jack, you always have to make sure the parking brake is on. And I didn't even think about it, and the guy didn't say it. And I was on the other side of the car, and all of a sudden I heard the car lunge forward. And I saw it, and I said, oh my God, please let this fireman have a head. Please let him have a head. I know the Sun is opposite Saturn. I walked around, he had a head, and everything was fixed with that. But I had to keep going, and I was like, okay, Saturn, where is the lesson? I got the same front tire, ruined it, had to get a brand new tire 2 different times, both on a gym at the curb, 2 different gyms this time. So where is it? I need to pay attention, I guess, better. I need to watch out for the curbs. They jump out of me. I don't know. Get a new car? I don't know what I should do. But that really is just an example of what happened. Last week, we had a lot of Saturn energy with the full moon. Saturn was bringing blocks, and it still was bringing blocks. And then when the Sun and Saturn moved into an opposition this weekend, I don't know about you, but suddenly everything moved slower. I picked my kids up. We went to Dorney Park, and that was just moving slower. It was just everything. There was blocks. There was lines. It was just a very long, drawn-out process, which Saturn brings that. So with this happening, we will be on the 28th. Okay. On the 28th, Venus will be opposite Saturn. So that we'll be revisiting them. What I want to talk about with that. We'll be revisiting past endings. Okay. endings around love, feeling joyless or restricted with love, or strong feelings of regret. So that's going to be happening at the end of the month. Let me make sure I wasn't talking about last month here. Oh, yeah, that's at the end of the month. So tie into some more Saturn. This is going to be a really Saturnized, the opposite of the sun. Its opposition, a real Saturn sort of month that we can see. So the Saturn opposite the sun was also kind of like brought some repercussions. To talk about the flat tire again, it was almost like I did this thing again. I did it subconsciously. I hadn't learned my lesson. I was still very loosey-goosey with it. And all of a sudden, I had repercussions, and I wish I could have taken it back. I wish I could have taken that moment. I kept thinking for a second, why didn't I just back out a different way? Why didn't I just turn the car a different way? Why didn't I just look more? And I realized that was very Saturn opposite the sun. It had us, so, we acted out on something, or we did something very avant-garde, not really thinking. And then we immediately wanted to take it back because we didn't like the repercussions. And Saturn says, I'm sorry you don't like the repercussions, but this is how you're going to learn. So maybe the third time, Colleen, you're not going to hit the tire at another gym and ruin your tire. You're going to pay attention and not make crazy turns or crazy moves. So again, with Saturn, that tends to feels what the lesson feels like. You acted out, you did something you shouldn't have, you should have learned a lesson, and all of a sudden you're faced with the repercussions. It brings the repercussions, and a lot of times it's easier just to settle and agree. All right, that's what it is. I've learned my lesson, or I'm just going to accept what is unfolding with me. Okay, so that was really interesting. And it had us, again, it really slowed me down. So I took a break from social media. If you haven't noticed, I haven't posted anything. And I took a few days to even do this. So when we have the sun opposite Saturn, we tend to slow down our work path, our life path, kind of the ego, and what do we want in life and what really is important to us. And it has us really slowing down, reevaluating, and creating structure. I never plan my social media breaks at all. It's just one day I just don't feel like checking it. And then one day turns into 2 days turn into 3. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just rocking with it right now. My body, my energy is saying, don't do social media. And I'll start it when I start it again. I'll probably post some stuff tomorrow. It's just that I haven't wanted to. And I've really been, again, reevaluating what is important to me, especially since Italy. And how do I want to restructure myself? And I realized since getting back from Italy, I have not unpacked my house. My house is a mess, and my creative energy couldn't just flow freely. And so Saturn had me reevaluating my home and getting my shit into order. Kind of like that probably started with the full moon last week. All of a sudden, I realized, hey, if I don't take care of my things, how can I acquire new things? If I don't take care of my space, how do I expect to harness and grow and flourish my creative energy? So I really spent these last few days at my house cleaning, reorganizing, throwing things away. It's really kind of amazing when I jump into that. I'm like, my Mercury mind is like, whoa, where have I been? Why am I not organizing my life? Usually it's when Saturn really shows up. Again, once a year, the sun and Saturn make this opposition, and it's sort of like a look into reevaluating our life and seeing what's important, what works, not working. Where do we need structure? Where do we need almost like that, sobering real. And I'm not just talking about actual sobriety from substances. Like all of a sudden you see something in yourself or others or in your life, clarity, and it's like you see it so bad, it's almost sobering. And then you're like, oh, wait, whoa, okay, I need to get it together. So cleaning your life up a little bit, cleaning your space, and just seeing where you need to restructure your life. Again, with that, it just also brought some gloomy feelings of woe is me. Why do I feel this way? Do I want this? What can I expect? I know that was me all week. Okay, let's talk about Venus and Leo, which moved just last week First of all, shout out to my sister. She turned 40 last week. She's a Leo. She's a Leo with a Virgo rising and an Aries moon, and she just partied it up. And it was like the perfect example. They rented a limo. She had like 35 friends. I'm like, I didn't even know you had these many best friends, that all of a sudden you're best friends. Again, very Leo. And they went out on the town. I wish I could have gone down. She's outside New Orleans, but I could not make it. And that was really the description of not only the sun in Leo and people enjoying their life, but Venus in Leo. You know, Venus is, we kind of put our friendship and our love in the spotlight. We put it in the front center of our life. We sort of want to show off our friends, show off our love, show off our beauty. Again, a lot of giving and receiving love from friends during this time and enjoyment. Feeling confident with lots of self-love, Venus and Leo showing off. And sometimes, you know, ego is a beautiful thing and it's also a worst enemy. So in some ways, depending on how this is showing up in your chart, you're going to feel on fire and confident and finally have that confidence that you needed. You know, you finally got that ego boost that's important. And then in some cases, for some people, it might show up and see where, you know, we're a little too cocky and where can it be our detriment? Where can our ego be our downfall? And maybe we'll get a little bit of both for all of us. You know I've already seen both sides. I feel like I see both sides of the coin like that every day anyway. And again, our ego is going to like show up and show off with love and self-love. And something that can happen is maybe in a friendship, relationship, family, we might be too prideful to say we're sorry. You know, our pride gets in the way, and maybe we'll feel weak or we'll feel like we're not a leader if we don't say, I'm sorry. One thing I know in life is the most powerful thing you can do is forgive. And forgiveness is so unbelievably powerful because it is so hard. We think that getting angry and upset is hard. No. Forgiving someone in spite of what maybe you feel they did to you or they actually did to you, and being able to free yourself from that because you actually see that is harming you, that is total power and that is total control. So if you need to apologize, if you need to get over something, to clean up your side of the street, whatever it is, just know how powerful it is, and you don't have to be too prideful. And simply saying I'm sorry or forgiveness or being open to someone else saying that to you can instantly change everything. I can promise you that. And, you know, we might not always be the most humble, or we might see where we need to be humble. It goes both ways in Leo. You know, I love Leo. It's a leader. It's the center of the universe. You know, that's where Leo gets it from. It's prideful. It's honorable. There's also like going to be with love, and even our children will have like a really strong animal instinct. With our partners, we might have a lot of like, animal instinct with that. I do love Venus and Leo. I feel like it's like a nice way to end of summer, and we just enjoy things and we feel on fire. We feel sexy. You know, we want to enjoy our life with Venus and Leo. We really want to enjoy it to the fullest and create, you know, again, be a leader of some sort. What do I want to talk about next? Let me flip through my notes. All right. So Jupiter retrograde in Aries. First of all, I said this earlier in the episode. Go back to some of my other episodes that said Jupiter in Aries, and you'll get a little bit of an idea of what Jupiter feels like while it is in the fiery Mars-ruled sign of Aries, which is the beginning of the zodiac. So we are starting a brand new 12-year cycle with Jupiter, okay? It's ending in Pisces. It's retrograding now back into Pisces. It'll enter Pisces in October and then leave Pisces at the very end of December. So we're having one last hurrah with the last 12 years. And when I say last hurrah, I mean Jupiter last hurrah. So maybe the last relook or revision of growth, of our abundance, of our spirituality, of our self-love, self-help. You know, how has this Jupiter cycle really played out for you? And get an idea, look at 12 years ago and see where Jupiter was. Where is Aries in your chart, and where was it? How did that begin? I know for me, sad to say, when Jupiter moved into Aries, my dad died, and Jupiter moved into my 8th house of other people's money, and I ended up getting money from him passing away. And that's how that all kicked off. Jupiter in Aries. That was, God bless his soul. It's kind of crazy. It's been 12 years. And then since that, I was in a really hard place in my life, and my faith and my journey with life has really grown as Jupiter moved into each house. So again, see where that is. So we are going to be reactivating with Jupiter retrograde. With retrograde, we reactivate, we revisit, we re-see, we relook. And so maybe something in the beginning of this 12-year cycle, maybe you're restarting and reactivating a new self-growth or spiritual growth plan. A lot of people are beginning things right now. A lot of people are ready to get their shit in order. They're like, okay, myself included, I know I haven't been the healthiest, mentally, physically, or emotionally, and now I'm ready to get in order. I know a lot of my clients have been that way, myself too. So very taking initiative with Jupiter and Aries and really doing what you need to do to get back to where you want to be. A sudden force, a sudden change of growth that comes after chaos. I say chaos anytime we talk about Mars or any of the Mars' signs. All of a sudden you have chaos in your life and you're ready just to end that chaos. You're ready to close the toxic chapter in yourself or someone else and say, I'm ready for a really sudden change. Sometimes we need a lot of craziness to shake things out of us and to awaken a greater change. Wanting a strong and passionate connection with yourself again is going to be, Jupiter in Aries. A lot of people are going to be kicking off with like, all right, I'm ready to be me again. I'm ready to connect with myself. What do I need to do? And then Jupiter's going to be moving at the end of December into Aries, will it'll pretty much be for all of 2023. It might do a quick move into Taurus, its next sign. I don't, it might retrograde ahead. I don't know. I have to look into all of that, to be honest with you. But that's where it's going to be for most of the year. So we're really going to see this new beginning with ourself and our growth and our improvement coming on strong. But again, the last 3 months of 2022, we will be revisiting and relooking and rethinking that final step before we close the door on these last 12 years. We also are going to be feeling like we need to make a big shift somewhere in our lives for the greater purpose. And we're starting to just see how we need to make that shift right now. And this shift is going to be well over the year, and it could very much last for a 12-year cycle. We are going to see that shift. I know when Jupiter moved into, I guess it was probably my second, getting ready into my third house, I got sober. And it's funny, the third house is communication and community. The 11th house is community too, but the third house is sort of like local, like fairy childhood community. And that's when I got sober, and it was like a whole self-growth from there, just to give you an idea of the cycle. And also we're going to have like a really, really, again, a yearning, all right? A yearning for change. And I think we've all been having that. So the last thing I want to talk about, I'm yawning. I'm telling you, I'm still adjusting. I'm finally going to bed on time and sleeping straight through the night, but I'm waking up early, and it's just, life is crazy right now, but the life of the Gemini. All right, Saturday, Mars moves into Gemini. Speaking of Gemini, this is going to be a big transit, probably one of the biggest transits of the end of the year. Mars only retrogrades once about every 2 years. So again, the last time I said it retrograded was in the fall, late summer, fall of 2020. Mars retrograde was hard, that last one. I was like really trying to reflect on the ones before that, but I knew, 2 years ago I was well into studying astrology with Nightlight Astrology. I had a lot of awareness about what was happening in Mars retrograde. So it was a hard one, and it was one, with Mercury retrograde, which we'll be experiencing that in the fall. It's all outside circumstances, usually. Yeah, you can like have some miscommunications, some fights with people, some revisions, but oftentimes it's like things that are out of your control, like your computer breaking down, or, somehow your car, ran off a bridge, or, something like along those lines that you can't really control, and it really makes for like your day to mess up, but it's not so internal. It's not so emotionally tied. Whereas with Mars, it's way more emotionally tied, and Mars like reshakes the chaos. It either can make a revisit to chaos and change things up and make it kind of better, or it creates chaos and it aggravates the shadows. Mars is our shadow activator. And when Mars retrogrades, we might not think we have a shadow somewhere, and then it comes up. And I remember when it was like the weekend that Mars, I guess it was Saturn would have been still in Capricorn. So it was So it was squaring Saturn. And there was a lot there, I think, because Jupiter was in Capricorn, squaring Mars. It was like a really intense, like, beginning of Mars retrograde. And I had built this friendship with someone, and I remember, like, literally the day it squared Saturn, this person and I had, like, this crazy out of the blue, like, chaotic kind of fight, and we just, like, never talked again. And it was very, like, shocking. It was very out of the blue. It revealed a lot of shadows on this person and I as well. And I remember just being thrown for a loop. And that was just the beginning. It was also like, it separates, it severs. And it was just really, I felt, especially the 2 months of it retrograding, the worst, I just really felt alone in my shadows. Now, it's important to be. I was fine. I remember driving down to the beach one night, literally after one night just crying, and it was cold, and I just sat there with one of my candles, and I prayed. And it was like freezing out at night, and that was like such a beautiful, powerful moment with just me and my emotions. And I remember that with Mars retrograde. So this Mars retrograde, or Mars in Gemini, it's going to be a little bit lighter. I said that those were both happening in cardinal signs, leading signs. It's a very cardinal's still a very fixed energy. So not movable. We have this Mars retrograde happening in the mutable sign of Gemini. So it's going to be a little bit lighter. And I feel like some of the chaos is going to be coming through communication chaos. People in general are also going to be, again, the Mars retrograde does not begin until October. So I don't want to jump into that. Come October, I'll be talking about that much, much more. Just an FYI, this is just Mars moving generally into Gemini. People are going to be talking a lot more, especially when it first moves in. I feel like this next week, starting Friday until well into next weekend, everyone's going to be chatty. You're going to be like, whoa, where is everyone coming from with all this communication? Because I'm not, I wasn't ready for it. There's also going to be a little bit more of like aggressive communication, but more in like the smart ass aggressive communication, or the rebel. The Gemini is the smart ass, the rebel, sort of that sort of communicating. Like, you told me you wanted me to do something, but I'm going to do the total opposite just because. That's big Gemini vibes right there. Revisiting that, like, a good, quick, get good, quick, fast plan, if that makes sense. Sort of like, how can I get my life together a little bit in order just to get by with what I need, and then we'll figure it out from there. Trying something new and being very brave with trying something new for the mind. Again, getting your mind in shape. This would be a time, oh my God, there's a spider on my wall. There might be a time where you're like, I'm going to run, or I'm going to do an Ironman, or I'm going to do something really that gets my adrenaline and my mind and body going. Revisiting a job or a project and having a fresh new action plan. Especially, maybe we'll talk again more about this with when it actually retrogrades, but think back to this last retrograde and what plan sort of got waysided and needed a new action plan that maybe you've just put away for 2 years. You might be surprised how you'll have some answers flowing, some clarity flowing about what you should be doing that. And again, so it's happening in the mutable sign of Gemini, the retrograde, but in general, we're going to get used to Mars being in Gemini for the next 5 months. So however, if there are arguments, if there are fights, this will be one that people will get over pretty fast because it's in the mutable sign of Gemini. So it's nothing that's happening is going to be super, super fixed in that sort of way. We're also going to see the feeling. We're going to be seeing the truths in others. We're going to be feeling the truths. We're going to be hearing the truths. We're going to be seeing the truths in others. All those truths will be revealed. And again, a lot of truth in the other side. And we also might act out, again, in some shadow behavior that maybe we need to see. Maybe we've been so blind to it, or maybe we didn't realize we haven't gotten past it. That or the other. Whew, I think that's all for this week. Again, I'm sorry this week it's a little bit late. I was just so out of it and tired, and I've learned not to pressure myself when I feel that way, and I could just tell my body needed a break. And when Saturn comes in and slows me down, I know that happens for a reason. But thank you guys again. I should be back on social media whenever it happens this week, but don't forget to check me out, Cosmic Colleen 1C, and I hope everyone has a fabulous week. I'll be back next week. Love you all. Goodbye.